This is the Typewriter Holiday Elements Clear Stamp Set from MemoryBox. This high-quality 6 by 8 inch clear stamp set features 15 different holiday elements perfect for holiday stamping and projects. This set features our popular typewriter font in the Night Before Christmas poem, as well as Believe, Peace, Warm Wishes, Noel, Joy to the World, Merry Christmas, and a few 25 icons. We're also going to be using the Bold Christmas Greetings set, which has a number of different greetings in it as well, in a cool brush script. It also has this great striped element, which we'll be using in today's card. Now when you stamp this out, you can see that it stamps out very crisply, which will be great for a number of backgrounds. But we're going to do something that's a little bit more distressed, where some of the image comes through and some of it does not, and it'll help create a distressed background. I'll be using Distress Oxide ink in Iced Spruce to create a background on some plain white cardstock. I'll be applying the ink in an uneven way so that some areas are darker than others. There isn't a perfect way to do this, so just use your imagination, add some color here and there, and I promise it'll turn out just fine. Once you've applied the ink, now you need to spray it to create that distressed look. I've filled a spray bottle with 10 parts water to 1 part bleach solution. This will make the spray really show up nice and white and create sort of a snowy look for the background. You'll want to let that dry completely before proceeding onto any stamping. Once dry, use a stamp positioner to create a stamped image on the background. Again, I want you to see what it looks like when it's not evenly stamped. So I'm missing some of the areas as I'm inking up this stamp, so you can see that the words fade in and out once these things are stamped out. I find that this step is helpful in achieving this uneven look, and some of the ink may be left over for the next stamping, which just adds to the distressed look of the final project. Now go ahead and position your background in the stamp positioning tool and stamp it. Again, you want to ink the stamp unevenly so that some of the words get stamped and some of the words do not. Now when you take a close-up view of the final stamped image, you'll see that some of these stamped words are in open white spaces and some of them have fallen on that background. And there's a lot of texture that ends up happening that way. The spray and the color and the in and outs of the words really make the background interesting. Now go ahead and trim it down to the size of the A2 card. You'll want to line it up so that the words are more or less straight horizontally, and then just trim it down so that it'll fit onto the card. Now a background like this really lends itself to a collage style type card, so I'm going to use the new dove circle to create a design element on top of that background. I've cut it out twice, once in white cardstock and once in a dark gray cardstock, and I'll combine those to create the design element. I'm also going to be using the holly collage. I'll use this to add a little bit of color towards the bottom of that background, and it really is going to make everything on top of it stand out. After I've used the holly collage to cut out the holes in the background, I'm going to run that through the die cut machine with a few shades of green cardstock so that I get a bunch of holly leaves to play with. Another element that we're going to add on is a strip of vellum, and I'm going to use that striped stamp from the Bold Christmas Greetings stamp set to create this embossed piece on the vellum. I'll position the stamp right on the vellum, and using the tool, I'm going to stamp that with some clear sticky ink. In this case, I'm just using a Versamark ink pad. Apply the ink and stamp it out, and I'm going to be using that to adhere the embossing powder to it. I'm going to use a sparkly white embossing powder, but any embossing powder will do. I love the look of white on vellum, and so that's why I've chosen this one. Go ahead and sprinkle the embossing powder directly on the stamped image, shake off the excess, and you can see that it sticks everywhere that I've stamped. Follow up by heat embossing the powder and then trim down that strip to the size that you're going to be using for the card. I just made it narrow and just followed the edges of that striped border. Now you can see it's going to be laying over those open areas, and once we've got that all filled in, there'll be a lot of color and texture to play with there. I've trimmed out a second piece of cardstock the same size of the background, and that's going to help us put all of those leaves in just the right position. I'm just putting a dot of glue inside all those open spaces and getting it ready for me to insert all of my leaves. Now, as you can see, I laid out all of my leaves in the position that they're going to be taking onto the collage. This way I can mix up the greens a little bit. You can put some of the lighter greens next to the darker greens, just so that not all of one color is next to each other. And just put those on there. Just a few dots of glue is enough to keep those things in place, and you're just putting them in like a little puzzle. It's really cool to see the contrast between the background with the splatter and the words that are sort of fading in and out versus this really solid green color of the leaves. It's a beautiful look for a collage. Once you've placed all of the leaves in their correct position, go ahead and take that embossed vellum strip and layer it over so you can see where you want to position that. And you'll be able to see some of the leaves showing through that vellum, which is so beautiful. I think we need a little bit of red in there to mimic the look of some berries, so I've stamped out one of the words from the clear stamp set, believe, and I've embossed it with some white embossing powder on some red cardstock. We'll just use that element to add a little bit of color right in the middle of those leaves. I'll just trim it down a bit with some scissors, and I'll be placing that right over the vellum strip. Now I have to get my dove circle ready for the collage, so I'm just going to flip all the pieces and layer them back into each other just like a puzzle, and I'll be using some adhesive to put them all in place. Take your time as you're reassembling this piece. You want all of the edges to match up nicely before applying the adhesive. Now I've cut out a couple pieces of foam mounting tape, and I'm just going to put those across those different pieces so that they all link together. And this is also going to provide a little bit of dimension when you stick it to the front of the card. Now that I have my collage elements in place, I've attached that vellum strip to the background just by wrapping those ends around the edge. And I'm just going to go ahead and put that dove circle onto the card as well. When you're assembling a collage card, you can just use your instincts as far as where things should go. So I've decided to kind of put that in the upper right corner, and since I wanted a little bit of red in the middle where the holly leaves are, I'm just going to kind of stick that in there, but still let some of that striped element show. You can continue to build onto your collage card. I'm going to use the Batavia Stitch snowflakes to create a few more design elements. You'll find it's easy to continue to add onto the background provided by the Typewriter Holiday Elements Clear Stamp Set. It really is a fun set of stamps that can be used for so many different holiday projects. To learn more about the rest of our collection, please visit memoryboxco.com.